TD Pearse Doherty.
Maigad ich an cóirle agus dhéanam cuairdeas le héana san an áfik aird tá tú tofuisteán agus le steire bhfuil don Dáil a héin agus le steire bhfuil duitse agus de Haile agus tásúlagam go nibrehaimid go maiile le ar na seaartainní bitir mína, bitir bliantaí a maithróin san Dáil seo nós a gon go fáil go dé Harlachas na go dé heidir sama. Bhailam takeíart óhairt an méid a bhí réiteigh teachta Munster agus teachta McDonald ó hiú an máú tá chu an tasaí Party Sinn Féin a Jerry Adams a cheapú martíise. A bhailam fásta ré ná méid Party Sinn Féin ag tuair takeíart agus béimiid bhótal in éan an aim nehan fáine an tíise Enda Kenny a thur aráiste se san chair sin agus fásta an teachta Martin. Agus sin foioi gur gnéirim sin agus ní rud pásanta mar a dúirtma an Tom Jarna na lig sib síos go milltena an tíir seo daoine bhí bretharbh le 5 bliana nuas agus tá sé le feiceal in gach ceann dar stage. Not only will Sinn Féin be proposing Jerry Adams as Taoiseach who, in the words of Mary Lou MacDonald and Deputy Munster, is the most fitting Taoiseach to represent what I believe are the real values of the Irish people. But Sinn Féin want to make it clear that we will not be supporting the nomination and voting against the nomination of Enda Kenny and Deputy Martin as Taoiseach when the votes are cast in a couple of minutes. And the reason I say that, it's not anything personal against either of both deputies, but it's the fact, if you look at the Taoiseach's position and the role he has played over the last 5 years, it is very clear that he betrayed the mandate that he was given 5 years ago. Long gone was the democratic revolution that he so proclaimed. There are many reasons why we should not elect Enda Kenny as Taoiseach for the 32nd Dáil. I give you 203 reasons. They're the number of people who lost their homes to the banks in the last 3 years, in the last 3 months of 2015. I give you 511 reasons, Taoiseach. That's the number of people who've been lying on hospital trolleys as we are sitting here discussing these issues today. I give you 1,600 reasons, Taoiseach. That's the number of children that will go to sleep in emergency accommodation in our capital city and elsewhere as we discuss these issues tonight. They're the reasons why you should not be elected as Taoiseach, because over your watch you have allowed that to happen. You talk about how you said goodbye to the Troika, but you rolled over on every single occasion. You adopted a policy of no bondholder would be left behind, and you picked the pockets of the ordinary people of this state to pay for that indulgence. You did it in the form of water charges, and you did it in the form of property taxes. And there's been a lot of discussion in relation to political reform. It's the new buzzword now for the last 2 weeks. And as a young child, I used to watch The Twilight Zone on a black and white TV in the corner of my room. And sometimes I feel that when you walk through the gates of Leinster House, you're entering into a Twilight Zone. Because everybody believes that Dáil reform is the #1 issue. And of course Dáil reform is important. Of course it's important that we figure out how we divvy up speaking time and who takes chairs of different committees and how we deal with X, Y and Z. But let me say this, not one person of the thousands of people that I met and canvassed in Donegal mentioned the issue of Dáil reform. Not one whisper of Dáil reform did I hear on the doorsteps of the streets of Donegal. And I would say it was the case in many other constituencies across the state. What people were talking to me about was the mother with 2 children who was wondering what will she do because she's up in court because the banks want to take her house from her. She doesn't know where to turn. The mother that was talking to me, nearly in tears, telling me that she has a child with life-limiting conditions and she can't get the support from the HSE, and she tells me that she's exhausted battling the system. The granny who worked to build this country into what it is today, talking about the disappointment after Christmas when she sees her daughter and her granddaughter leave for Australia again. They're the issues that the people of this country voted each and every one of us in here to deal with. If we want to fix Dáil reform, we can do it overnight. It's simple. Let's get down to the real issues. Let's deal with the real problems that we have. There was a crisis in health just before the election. There's still a crisis in health. There's a crisis in accommodation and housing. It's still here. There's a crisis in homelessness. If we put names to it, does it make it more real to people? if we mention the names of John Corrie or others, if we mention the name of the woman who was on the trolley, will it make it real to people? Because we need to get real here. There's a sense of disconnect, as Pathers have been talked about. Political reform, Dáil reform is important. Let's do it. But let's deal with the real issues that people out there want. We won't have a Taoiseach elected today because the two parties who are given a mandate will not lift up the phone and deal with each other. So let's get on. We have a number of motions before this House this evening.
Could we have some order, please? Could we have some order, please?
We have motions before this House. One on the crisis on the health service. It's not an issue for It's not an issue for you because you would rather talk about how we divvy up the positions, and all the rest. Let's deal with the real issues. Let's, if we're really genuine about this here, not only set up a committee on Dáil reform, but let's set up a committee today to deal with the homeless. Let's set up a committee today to deal with the 511 people who are on trolleys. That's what the people demand of us, and that's why I will not support Enda Kenny as Taoiseach. And finally, if I can say, and I welcome the maiden speech. By Deputy Chambers, and I welcome all new TDs to this House. And Deputy Chambers talked about Micheál Martin as the champion of political reform. Let me remind Deputy Chambers that when I made my maiden speech after winning the by-election in 2010, it only happened because I had to take Micheál Martin and his colleagues to court, because he sat in that side of the House, voted not once, not twice, but on 3 occasions to deny the entire people of Donegal South West for over a year and a half the right to go, the most precious right to cast their vote to elect a TD. Now we have champions of political reform. I don't trust it.
Thank you, Deputy Doherty.